Okay, good morning. We're continuing in this series of sort of voyeurism into people's shops. And I don't think this would have happened if we had just been continuing our normal offline programs, except at a much slower pace, because we have this traditional shop tour that we do. And it's like every couple of months, and we go and we see one shop. Just take, for instance, what we're going to do today and contrast it. We're going to go through 3 shops, and we're going to see the CNCs, one or more, that these people have. And if you wanted to take a whirlwind tour of a narrow topic, not the broad topic of a shop, but the narrow topic of a particular tool, this is the way to do it. And I'm not sure we've gotten 18 people now, 18 people onto this sort of a thing if we hadn't gone virtual. So today's topic is sort of a continuation of the topic we started about 2 weeks ago, where we had 3 people who had lasers show us what they had. And we had a low, medium, and high-end laser that were shown to us. We had a chance to learn the specs, got a chance to hear the person's experiences, recommendations, the significant hacks they had made to it, etc. And it just made sense that we take that in the direction of CNC as well. So we have a slightly different spin here, because while Mark's CNC isn't, when you buy it, a moderately powerful, moderately precise CNC, he's made that happen. And that's through the way he's taken his and enhanced it. Then we're moving on to Ian, Ian, I think you've got at least the Stinger. Did you have something else you're going to show us too?
Yeah, I'll show the shark. It's not going to be running, but the shark will be there.
Great, great. And Lou's got a shark as well, and he's also just got his brand new, gorgeous Legacy Maverick, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so with that as the agenda going forward, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and ask them now. And then I'm going to be handing this off individually to those 3 people in succession. Then we can close off afterwards with any additional Q&A. Anything else before we get started?
Hey, Dallas, I have a question. You said, Travis, you said something about how to raise your hand, and I guess I don't know how to do that.
Okay, that's good. So the way you raise your hand is if you were to go to the, I think it's in your chat window, and at the bottom,
Participants.
is the participant. See, I don't, since I'm hosting this, I don't have the same user interface that you guys do. So somebody who has the interface that is a participant, could you please describe to Jerry how it is we go about raising our hands?
Look for the icon at the bottom on the right, and it says reactions. And if you click on that, there'll be a thumbs up. Actually, that's the wrong one. That's not what you wanted.
Participants.
Yeah, so you do go to participants, and then if you look down at the bottom on the right-hand side, it says raise hand. So I just raised my hand.
Thank you, I got it.
And afterwards.
And echo is because someone's on their phone and their computer.
Right, exactly. So those of you, I think yesterday, Lou, we muted one of yours, right? So you know how to go about making sure we don't have the reverberation. Ian, you need to make sure that one of your devices is not with a speaker on so that we don't get it. And frankly, anybody who would maybe have noise in the background, why don't we mute while we're listening? I'm about now to turn this over to Mark and Jillian, who are going to show us what they've got. I'm going to put the spotlight on them, and so we'll be focusing on their presentation for the next 15 minutes. Mark, are you there?
I am.
Okay.
I was actually going to do a live demo, but you only gave me 15 minutes, so I cut that part out. The one thing I do want to share with everybody is everyone's been talking about spindles. What's so cool about spindles? There's 2 different kinds. There's air cool and there's liquid cool. The air cool uses a fan to cool it, so it's a little noisy. And the liquid one uses liquid, so it's almost silent. Matter of fact, it is silent. If you can hear anything running right now, it's the little electronic VFD that controls the spindle. So what I want to do, and I'm going to turn this off so you can hear me better in a minute. But what I want to do is, if you see the spindle over here, I'm going to spin it up to 20,000 RPMs right now. And say run. on and spin it up. And it's accelerating right now. And it's now at 20,000 RPMs.
Where's the sound?
Yeah. Oh, there it goes. I'm sorry. Can you hear it? Jillian's got the microphone about 4 inches from it.
Wow. That's very nice.
Okay. Now, the big thing here is, well, it's going to make noise cutting through wood. It does. But when you're doing things like V-carves, where you've got it running for 3, 4, 5 hours in the background, V-carves take very, very little nibbles of the wood. And to be honest, they don't make any noise. So you can run this spindle at high speed for hours and still work in the shop without getting a headache. And that's kind of important here because, as you all know, my son has this very, very high sensitivity to noise. So much so that my compressor is under 60 decibels. The spindle is under 50 decibels. We're looking into getting a dust collector that runs about 58 decibels from heavy air. It allows my son to be out here and not get massive headaches. So that's the whole idea of the sound thing. Does that VFD bother anybody in the background? If not, I'm not going to have Jillian turn it off. Can you hear it humming?
I don't hear it.
I don't hear it.
All right, so we'll just keep going then. So what did I do? Well, as you can see, I only have a very small area in my garage. My garage is extremely full, as Travis can attest to. I had to get something that would fit in this area so that I could use it all the time instead of donating or dedicating a big part of the shop to a CNC, which is my dream, right? I have parts to build an Avid just like Howard has, but it's actually the 4x4, but I can't fit it in here. So the next thing I want to do is like, well, what can I do to make the Shapeoko a little bit better? Well, some of the inherent issues with the Shapeoko are it's built with eccentric nuts. And the eccentric nuts that first came out were kind of lame. They would always come loose, they would fall out, they would lose adjustment, stuff like that. Carbide 3D has come up with a new set of eccentric nuts called heavy duty eccentric nuts, where they've extended this and made it much heavier. And you can buy an entire pack of them for like 30 bucks. It might even be that, it might be 25 bucks. And I went and I replaced all the eccentric nuts on the machine. Since then, I haven't had a single adjustment issue. I did put a little drop of blue Loctite on each one of them. It's kind of a repositional vibration sensitive Loctite. So it won't back out with vibration, but you can go in there with any normal tool and break it loose. It's not like the red. So all the eccentric nuts have been replaced on the machine. I then went and got, instead of using the rubber belts, I went and ordered a set of belts that are like steel belted radials. I don't know if you can see the steel, that they're steel reinforced inside there. And with the temperature fluctuations in the garage and under heavy load, these belts don't stretch at all. So you get a very, 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 very positive grip. So after that, I'm sure everyone recognizes this. This is our little touchpad, right? And the touchpad's for doing my X, Y, and Z zeroing, which I actually do off the bat, but we'll skip that right now. I was going to explain why I do that, but I'll leave that. One of the shortcomings of this to me is when you change bits, you zero off a piece of material and then you rough cut it. And now that piece of material's not flat, right? And it's very difficult to get a read off of it to change your bits. So Travis and I, Carbide 3D came out with what's called a bit setter now. And that's this little box that sits over here. And what it does is when you first zero the machine, it comes over here and it gets a reading so it can memorize your settings. So from every bit forward, it never touches off the work anymore. It only touches off the bit setter. So I've done, just for fun, I did up to 7 bit changes and it's flawless. It lets you set the bit. It never has to touch off the work and it's fantastic. It works really, really, really well. The one shortcoming it still had, though, that drove me nuts, and it happened with me when I took the class, and it happened when I've done some drilling operations, because they do use this for drilling operation, is the Z-axis tended to slip. So Carbide came out with 2 different versions. First, they came out with the HDZ, which is what this is, and I'll get to that in a minute. And now they come up with a light version. But basically what that does is it changes this from a belt-driven system to a ball screw system with linear rails. And to be honest, this can hold up to a 3 horsepower head. Now, this is only an 800 watt spindle that I have on here. It's 800 watt. It goes from 0 to 20,000 RPMs. It has an ER11 cullet. So the biggest bit I can get in here is a 1/4 inch shank. But because of the rigidity of the beam itself, I didn't think running a 1/2 inch machine or a 3/4 inch machine on this frame made sense. So, so that's where we have this. But this thing is a beast. This thing will carry any spindle, any weight. It changes your travel from about 2.5 inches to almost 6 inches of travel that it'll go up and down, which is really good because I like to work on thicker materials and was having some travel issues with the old system that they had, the old belt drive system. What you see left on here is the spindle is much narrower. I'm sorry, the HDZ is much narrower than the standard Z-axis for the Shipoko. So you have to put extensions on there for the socket. That's the dust collection system we use at the shop. It's the one I was using here. The problem I have with that is when you put the HDZ, heavy duty Z, HDZ, on here, you can get all this real estate back if you take these brackets off, which I haven't done yet. I know that they're still sitting there. That's because I'm still trying to find a dust collection that I'm in love with, and I don't have one yet. So I'll explain a little more of that in a minute. But one of the things that happens is when you tell Carbide Motion that you have the HDZ, it knows that this is much narrower. So when you do your rapid positioning, it knows it can go further that way. The problem is the socket dust boots will ram into your limit switch, which I hated. My solution was not to use the rapid positioning and just use the mouse and mouse over there. But the nice thing about the socket is it's adjustable, right? You can adjust it up and down. This has a lot of travel. Well, it was funny because Travis was at my house one day and I was demonstrating just how much travel it had. And even though I had the socket positioned down low, I was able to drive the spindle straight through the socket and bust it off because it has so much travel now. So, all right, that wasn't going to work for me. So Carbide 3D has a thing called a sweepy, and that's what you see on the machine right now. Now, this has some limitations too. So I've been playing, that's why these dust ears are still on here, because I'm not sure how to run it. But basically what it is it's a, I'll show you. It's a friction fit right on the spindle here that you use with this little toggle here, and it stays put right where you put it, which is kind of nice for the dust collection hose and everything. But now think about this. The limitation now becomes, this is magnetic, snaps right on here when you're running it, right like that. But I can still extend the bit way out of here. I can still, and it's cutting way down here, and the dust collection's way up here. Now, I don't have a real big problem. I've been cutting a lot of MDF, experimenting with it. That's why it's up so high right now. I actually left about 2 inches of open space between the sweeper fibers here and the wood, and it seemed to pick everything up pretty well. But I also run a full-blown 3-inch connection to my dust collector that does go down to 2.5 here. That's a lot of air I'm pulling through there in a big way. So the air movement down here tends to be pretty good. So still haven't found a dust collection solution that I'm in love with. So I'm kind of curious to see what other folks are doing as we look at the other machines today. Let's see. The other thing I did when I did water cool this, it comes with when you buy the Chinese spindle, it comes with an aquarium pump, sort of like the laser did, where you put things in water and you kind of pump it through. That's more than adequate, except the fact that you've got water now around 220 volts. That didn't make me comfortable at all. So I actually invested in another cooler, just like we use on the lasers that I have up here. And I'm running distilled water through the water lines and into the top of the spindle, and it's a closed circuit loop, and I don't have any leaks. So it's
Mark, is that an entirely second chiller to the one you have for the laser?
It is. That's actually the 5200, and it's actually I forget 300 or 400 BTUs more efficient than the other one.
Huh.
So you don't have to do that. You could easily share one, or you could easily just run a water bath, just like you do with lasers. I just happened to get a killer deal on it, and my wife allowed me to get it. I will tell you, I don't have a lot of time, so I don't want to go into it, but there's a lot of lessons learned here that I would love to just maybe go over sometime with anybody that's interested. I make it sound like it was this simple upgrade, but I ran into all sorts of issues. I ran into many nights where I just, had to lock up and go in the house and say, I'm done. From finding the exact size water lines to finding the correct wiring diagrams for the Chinese VFD, because they're all wired differently, to finding the right connectors for the electric on the spindle, to banging the HDZs into the limit switches. I mean, the HDZ socket connections into the limit switches. I had all sorts of fun learning. So if anybody does choose to do this, I highly recommend contacting me, only because I can tell you about the pain I had and maybe give you some gotchas you don't want to do.
Now, Mark, everything that you've said could be applied to the base Shapeoko or the XL or the XXL. Is that correct?
Actually, yes, Travis. This is the XL. One of the things I had considered, since I realized I had more room, is they sell an upgrade kit to this. They actually go to the XXL. It's just a little under $500.
Right.
But I'm not convinced. I do a lot of cutting on this, and right now I need to convince myself this is an interim or a good solution in between this and something like Howard has before I invest that kind of money. I also heard that Carbide 3D recognizes the gap in the market between some of those machines and theirs, and they're looking at some ideas. So I didn't want to go out and spend a bunch of money on upgrading. But yes, this is the XL, which is exactly the XXL, but shorter. It's not as deep.
Right.
And I kind of went with that size because at the shop, if you notice, all the cutting's done up front. There's almost the back is up, the wasteboard is almost pristine.
Right.
Unless, right.
Very
few people use that area. And when I'm cutting on this is parts to assemble small toys, parts for little tools. So it's a lot of parts stuff. So a lot of what I do is using Fusion 360 to develop small parts that I come out here, I whip out on the CNC. So I'm not doing a lot of big stuff. So if you notice, most of my area here that I've used, I've still got 4, 5, 6 inches towards the back that I've never even used on the XL. So I don't know that I would use it on the XXL either. So
Hey, Mark, I don't know if you want to admit to the answer to this question while Jillian is there with the camera, but when it came to what I suspect is your most expensive upgrade there, the spindle and the Z, that combination, what did that run you in terms of getting it to that working condition?
That's a really good question. This HDZ is Carbide Motion's HDZ. It's the exact replica of the one Luke did when he owned his company. He now works for Carbide 3D, and it's kind of expensive. It's about $500 just for that HDZ, but it comes with everything. It's basically plug and play. Everything. And if you pick this thing up, it weighs about 9 pounds. It's heavy. It's well built. Carbide Motion or Carbide 3D has now come out with a lesser version. It's about $290 or $250, where they just put a lighter ball screw in, not as big an engine, and the linear guides. These are major big league linear guides. This thing is built to handle a 3 horsepower spindle, and you don't need it, right? Because I'm not running a 3 horsepower spindle. Now, spindle is the 800 watt spindle. It's made by G. Penny. So without any accessories, which I did because I thought I was being cost effective. Lesson number 1, I bought it with no pump, no hoses, no electrical connections whatsoever. Thus my learning experience. The spindle itself is only about $129. So it's really, really reasonable. And it's compared to the router that has a little bit of vibration when it spins. This thing spins at 20,000 RPM and it is rock solid. When it cuts through the wood, there's no chatter. It's like a Rolls Royce running through the wood rather than a VW. It's amazing. Nice. Jillian can attest to that. It's just phenomenal the way it cuts. The level of quality is, you have to experience to even to understand it, because it's so much better.
Mark, is it still running?
Just the VFD is over there, but you wouldn't be able to hear it anyways.
Oh, okay. Just curious because it's so quiet.
Even if it was running, you wouldn't hear it. we're talking louder than it spins, unless it's going through wood. And like I said, for the long things like the lithograph that I want to do, it barely nibbles wood. So you're not going to hear it shearing a big half-inch bit through wood. So how am I doing on time here, Travis? I don't want to.
Getting pretty close here.
Yeah. So I'm going to skip over the rest of my bullet points here and just ask if there's any questions. I do want to mention one other thing. I spend a lot of time, like Pat did at the shop. I bought this little gizmo here that you put into the chuck, and it allows you to get two things. It allows you to fly cut the board very flat, but it also makes sure that the spindle is vertical in both planes so that it's straight up and down, so the bit's not, I mean, I'm dramatizing, the bit's not getting drugged through the wood like this or like this. So once I did that, I made a big difference. And I think I showed you an example of it, Travis, where virtually the bottom of it is seamless. You can't see where the bit's at.
No seams, no lines, nothing.
So I'm going to just let us go to questions for a minute here, and then we got to move on, because I apologize, Travis. I really tried to keep it to 15 minutes. But
it's going to be a challenge for everybody, but that's a good challenge to have. Questions for Mark?
Hey, Mark, you keep saying 2,000 RPM and then 20,000 RPM, and it'll go to 24. Why is that?
I'm sorry. It is a 0 to 20,000 RPM.
Spindle won't go 24?
That's me being nervous on a Zoom.
Apparently not, Jerry. It sounds like 20 is where he tops out at.
Yeah. The bigger bits, of course, you don't swing that fast. But all the small bits, all the 1/4-inch ones, I run them wide open, and they cut beautiful. I use the Amana special coated ones to handle the high speed, and they're amazing. Don't plug that, Julian.
How are you controlling the speed of the spindle? From do you have a connection from the Shapeoko controller to the VFD?
I did not do that yet, but yes, that is my next upgrade. You can actually go into the controller board and wire it straight into the VFD has inputs, and the Shapeoko, according to what I've been talking to their tech support, has the outputs to do that. Again, a lot of this was experimenting and learning. I didn't really have another person to ask questions of, and I wasn't even sure. But the VFD comes out to about it's weird. It doesn't have an RPM on it. It has 0 to 400, so every increment is about 50 RPMs. So what I was impressed with, Jerry's not on the call, right? I'm joking. Is when you get up around 20,000 RPM, it cuts really nice. It really cuts nice. Provided you use the right bit, they can clear the chip that back.
Right. So let's go ahead and move on. But man, can you guys appreciate the fact that we've got a real hacker, experimenter, self-learner here? One of the great things about having Mark talk is he doesn't just start with something off the shelf. No, he keeps pushing at it and learning from it. And that was really great, Mark. And Jillian, thanks for your camera work. That worked out great. Ian, are you still out there?
Yes, I am. Let me go ahead and switch out to the garage.
Okay.
Give me a moment.
Sounds good.
I'm going to assume that you can bounce between the two cameras, those two eyes.
I can. You just tell me which. Well, there's no way of distinguishing them right now, but we'll figure it out.
Yes. So give me a moment.
You bet. Hey, Lynn, you've got your hand up. What's up?
Yeah.
Are you talking to me?
I just asked a question already, so I'll put my hand down now.
Okay. And while we're changing cameras, since we do have a couple of minutes here, anybody have questions that we can still ask of Mark, because it's taking Ian a minute to transition.
You
I
said
did.
You said we were having a shop tour. How do we get the donuts?
They're virtual donuts, and I'll change the icon
man.
to be a virtual donut shortly.
Yeah, I think we're doing fax too, aren't we, Travis? If you send us your fax number, we'll fax your donut.
Right? We'll send you a fax of a donut. Be ready, standing by, Howard.
Well, what you should do is send a CNC for cutting a donut.
There you go.
I like this group.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm just wondering on the mods that you're doing, if the Shapeoko lends itself to easily relocating limit switches. When you're doing these mods, you don't you can just move limit switches so you're not bashing into things.
When that's the thing that I didn't go into, and if I have a minute while they're getting switched over, when you do rapid position, it doesn't care about the limit switches. It goes to a certain position. So the limits, if you're in a mode that respects the limit switches are fine. But rapid position, where you do the 9 quadrants, it disables the limit switches, and it just tries to go there.
So the limit switches are known as BAM. Is that correct, Matt? That's what I thought. Yeah.
And I have talked to Carbide about this, and they are, all this is in work. It's just, this is a new product, and they just weren't prepared for geeks like me to go after it full force.
They should be. Hey, Ian, are you all set up now?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, we can. We've got we're looking at your other machine, not your Stinger. Is this the?
Right. Yeah, the blue one is the Shark.
Okay.
You ready?
You go for it.
All righty. Hello, everyone. I'm Ian Martin. This is the Shark. I've had it now since about 2012. And like Mark, there's not a whole lot original left on it. The Sharks have come a long way as they've upgraded. I've gone, oh, that's kind of nice. Let me add that. The biggest upgrade was doing this aluminum panel, and then I jerry-rigged a L bracket and the cable chain and all those other goodies. It is running a 2 1/4 porterhouse router right now. Oh, let me bring this up. And it runs 1/2-inch bits and cuts pretty much anything. I don't have a lot of pictures to show, but if you've ever seen the Rockler demos, I show all sorts of things. And some of them have been really heavy duty, where I'm cutting 4x4 material all the way down, making 3-dimensional legs that are tapered and curved at the same time. I'm not going to run it, but it's just a very simple setup. I've got a PC out here. Earlier, I was working on something Lou had asked me about on Gary's tray. So I was doing a little bit out here. It's a very simple device. It runs. I was running it almost 24 hours a day for 6 months straight, doing stuff in my kitchen. So pretty powerful machine. Very simple, very easy. Not sure what else to say about it. It's just another CNC. Very simple interface. I like a lot of them now. Pendants. I'm not a fan of them because you don't have nearly the control. Let me see if I can put something in here. File I can load in there. What I was bringing up, one of the things it does do that is really nice is the ability to do your touch point off of 5 different points. What that does is it gives you, or what it changes to, is a plane. So as we know, the boards are never perfectly flat, and it will actually change and warp to your actual board surface using those 5 points. That's a really slick thing to do. It takes away having to surface the board as your first cut. When you switch over to the other material, that's what we're going to see. So a couple of nice things on this one. You know, maybe it'll show me, maybe it won't. Is how you're cutting. It allows you to go out there and trace around sure that you're not running into clamps, which if you look on the background there, once in a while I have. Yeah. We all have our Hall of Shame. All right, Travis, you want to switch over to the other camera?
Yeah, I can, but could you also just tell us what the basic specs on that machine were? How big is the bed, and what was you paid for it, that sort of thing?
Oh boy, it's 25 inches by 25 inches. Comes with the V-Carve Pro because it exceeds the 24, which is kind of nice. Gosh, what did I pay for it back in 2012?
That's okay. It may not be that relevant now.
Yeah. So I think the new ones are running around, what, $4 grand? And once in a while they throw in a spindle or something else.
Got it.
You definitely need to have the touch plate, though. Okay. Moving on to the Stinger. The Stinger is a 2 foot by 4 foot, a little larger on each dimension. It is a commercial grade machine. It weighs 700 pounds without the stand, without it. I mean, that's with nothing on it. That's just a base 700 pounds. You can see the yellow along the side here. That's, I mean, it's a beast. It's really a beast. It doesn't flex at all. I'm running a 1 3/4 inch spindle on there, but it is not water cooled, so it is not quiet. I'll show you if I run this up here and put it back up. So you can tell at 14,000 RPMs, it's got a little bit of noise. Not really annoying, but also not as quiet as a water-based spindle. But I really didn't want to have water running around all the electrical here. That just made me nervous. Plus, I would think I'd have to change it. I do have a job running, so all I did is pause it. In the middle, actually, technically, it's running extremely slow. What we're looking at here is called Win CNC. It's one of the standard CNC interfaces. You know, people, I'm sure you've all heard of Mach 3. That's another standard one. It allows me to go in and see here, up here, what I'm going to cut. I can zoom in. I can check all my limits, run it around, try and avoid hitting the hold downs, which is always a challenge. See if you can see me over here. All right. The weak point on this is this dust collection, and this is an upgraded one, and it still needs a fair bit of improvement. Travis, switch to the little camera, and let me do a quick show of what's behind here. Thank you. So this one is rack and pinion. So as you can tell, it's very beefy back here. It's very, very precise. Just kind of scan down some of the other components here. If you can see under there, you can see the y-axis is running down there. Again, rack and pinion. I do have a couple of little goodies on here. There's an air assist here for the Z, if I ever connect it back up, but with this little tiny spindle, it's not that necessary, but I certainly can do it. These large servo motors just keep going and going. They do get a touch warm, as does the spindle, but I keep asking the manufacturer, and they go, nope, that's fine. They can get as hot as you want.
Hey, Ian, did you say that X and Y are rack and pinion and then threaded rod for Z?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Let's see here. Oh, so what this one has is a 4th axis. It's one of the reasons I got it. So as you can see, I've got a nice 4x4 mounted in there. Gives you an idea. This is, oops, where'd it go? Stand up. So that's one of my prototypes there. I brought that into the shop once. I built the table, get an idea of what one of the 4th axis can do. It's a 4-foot length, actually a little bit more. And your what we call an A axis for controls. That was up on the main board. Spoiler board. I've actually got a double, this black one, but that's the new one that came with it. I didn't want to mess it up yet. And then, of course, having all the bits. Now, one of the other additives is adding the remote control. Oops, there it goes. The remote control. When you're working down at the other end of the table and trying to do alignments, that's nice to have, along with your touch plate. I think is kind of mandatory. That's about it. It's just another CNC. Is there any questions?
It's not just another CNC.
Oh.
It's a beautiful CNC.
This one is a what we call a fast tool change. It's the same thing that Mark was talking about, where it comes over and it'll touch off and it'll do your Z zeroing for you.
So if you don't mind us asking, just because it helps us put these different machines into an array of costs and what you get for it, what does a Stinger with the 5th axis, cost if you're going to get a configuration that was just getting started?
So the basic one, I think, is right around 65. That's what I paid for mine initially. But then I added all these little options. So the fifth ethics, counterbalance, fast tool change, the laser. I added a performance pack in there, the maintenance kits, the gantry list. By the time I was done adding everything up and the shipping, etc., I was right around 13.
13. And you said laser. So you actually have, like Howard did, you put a laser on the head?
Yeah, unfortunately, I tried to catch the whole thing on fire. I don't know if this, is that showing up there?
Yeah.
That's the laser. It got sheared off when I plummeted the Z. As Mark talks about, I have a lot of Z axis. It went through, it grabbed everything, it did all sorts of damage, including destroying the laser. All to make a simple mailbox top. That one did.
Just a last question from me. The Z travel on this one?
7 inches.
7. Okay, great. Great. Are you willing to take some questions?
Of course.
Okay. Anybody?
Yeah, how about, can you explain about the spindle a little more?
Sure. So the way these work is basically it's in place of your x-axis that's, if you think about it, that's really what it's doing. So rather than moving the machine across your X, it's rotating this along your A axis. See if I got the controls up here. So up here, this is your A axis, your home,
Actually, I was asking about the router equivalent spindle.
One of Jerry's passions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ask again. I didn't catch the question.
The spindle, the tool rotator, like the router.
Oh, it's 1 3/4 horsepower. I can't seem to slow it down. It goes from 0 to at least 20,000. See, what can I run it up to? I never take it much more than 14 or 16. It looks like 18,000. Looks like 18,000 is the max. A couple of things. That's a really good question, though. If you decide you want to change out, you don't want to do that on this machine. So the company will sell it to you, but you're on your own to try and get all the alignments and all the math right. You pick the spindle or router you want, and so that it's, you can see all these heavy duty aluminum plates that are all surfaced so that it's very precise. You don't want to change that. That is definitely one of the downsides on this machine if you change your mind. I've seen a lot of these at some of the user groups I go to. One of the shops, the guy has, you can, excuse me, even down at this low end, you can have multiple heads. The big ones, you can have 3 heads. But even on this small one, you can put 2 different heads. It does not have an automatic tool changer. At this size, you have to go up the next level to get to the automatic tool changer.
It sounds as though your hacks came in the form of purchasing a wide variety of accessories when you bought it, as opposed to hacking it afterwards. Did you make any changes or tweaks?
The only thing I've changed out, I think, since I bought it, was a different dust collection, which still isn't great. No, this one is fairly straightforward. I don't hear very many hacks on it. It's really well complete and solid, as opposed to the Shark, which, there's not a whole lot of original left on it.
Got it. Got it. Other questions?
I know we've talked about RPM, but really haven't heard much about surface speeds, which is the feeds.
Yes. Okay. So,
can you elaborate?
Sure. So it's up to 300 inches per minute in X and Y. Z, I wouldn't go that fast. You'll break your bits. And then it has a rapid of 800.
Oh, no, I was thinking about cutter speed, because you have a larger diameter cutter at a certain RPM is a faster surface cutting speed than, say, a smaller bit.
Well, sure. So, Travis and I have had a few conversations on feeds and speeds. As you guys probably have noticed on the front here, I can go in and change things. I may set it for, it comes out at 100, and then I'll swap it based on sound and whether or not I'm running the dust collection and such. So I can move the X and Y at a speed, and then I set my feeds and speeds. So for a large bit, like I've got a, the spoil board surfacing bit, which is a big bit, obviously I'll slow that spindle speed down. So I can set the spindle speed right there. It's actually in my tool database, and then I can play with it once I am out here in the shop. And if it's not going aggressive enough, I can either up everything here on this panel. I can change the spindle speed as I need. It's very flexible in that regard. But in my tool database, I have, my base one for each of the bits, be it, something that's really small here. I don't know if you can even see these with the resolution. Some of these points get pretty small. This piece I have on here now, I'm going to be running a 1/64 inch tapered bit on it here on the next cut. And so I'll run that fairly high, but, there's a tool out there that will give you what's the max. You don't want to go too much and turn everything into dust. You want to keep it as chips so that you don't have a lot of dust in your shop. Chips, here, fessed up. Chips pile up nice and don't go anywhere, but the dust you don't want.
So, but
Does that
Ian,
answer your question?
in terms of basic speeds, though, your rapid travel is 800, and your max speed for running the mill while cutting is 300. Is that what you said?
Right.
Got
Right.
it. Got it.
Yeah. In X and Y.
Other questions?
For the CNC Shark, I noticed you're using the computer to control it as opposed to the handheld controller.
Yes.
Do you prefer the computer rather than using the handheld controller, or did they not have that when you bought yours?
So since I do the demos for Rockler, I use it's called a pen, the handheld, it's called a pendant. And no, I'm not a fan of it because the control you have with the computer is so much more. It is the precision. A lot of, like, when you're setting up, doing your X and Y's and your jogs and such, I can set using these controls and get back to the same spot each time. There's a lot more flexibility on using the laptop as opposed to the pendant. I do use the pendant in the demos, mostly because the newer machines are not as computer friendly. I have a lot of discussions with the guys there at NextWave, and they're acknowledging that, people, once you get going, you want the computer. So this laptop, this HP, when I got the machine, I went to Costco and said, what's the cheapest, wimpiest laptop you got? And that's been sitting here ever since.
Got it.
Okay, so you're using the software that comes from NextWave Automation then?
I am for the CNC control. So okay. Just like I'm using WinCNC for the Stinger, and then I use their Shark panel is what they call it for the NextWave product. But I use Vectric tools for creating all my design and tool pathing and converting the G code.
Yeah, I understand.
Any other question?
Yeah. Did you look at the Shop Saber at all? The Shop Saber 23 before you purchased this?
I looked at a lot of them. Now, when I got the Shark, I didn't see a lot. I really like the price point on the Shark. When I did the Stinger, I had in the shop, a shop bought the extra large version of the Shark. What was the third one? They'd only be here for a week or two until I'd return them. They just were not cutting it. I really wanted the rigidity and the professionalism. Axum was almost willing to give me the CNC if I would use it, take theirs, but they weren't there yet either. When I bought the Stinger, they're getting there, but they're not there. They weren't at the time.
We've got another question from Howard out there.
Yeah, you're using WinCNC on the machine. Have you used Mach 3, and how do you compare the two?
I have not used Mach 3. WinCNC is what's native for the CAM Master systems. I've done a little bit of comparison and I've read about it, but personally, I don't have a lot of experience. I really do like this one because I can configure it however I want. It's easy to add features and upgrades and whatnot, move the buttons around, things like that. So being a software developer, I kind of like that idea that I can move around with it. And the user group, you know, for the Cam Master, almost everybody uses WinCNC, so getting my answers
is easier. Yeah.
And are you running a smooth stepper, or is it a parallel port, or how you hooked up on the Stinger?
Okay. So drop it down here. So the Cam Master runs off of a daughter card inside of the PC. So it is a parallel port. Your data speeds are considerably faster, along with your data volume is higher. So that does require as you can tell, a little tiny desktop unit in there.
Okay.
So why don't we go ahead and move on? But Liam, could you show us your turned item at the end of the bed again, the one that you brought in one time? Yeah. Guys, that's amazing. And the reason I wanted him to show that to us is because I continue to think that someday, if we're lucky, we'll get him to come in and teach some CNC classes, because he's among our most experienced. You already heard he got his first one in 2012, and he's just done amazing stuff. So when you're with him, say, I don't know, at a bar drinking a beer, and you can move on to another topic, I suggest trying to convince him to become an instructor for us on some of these advanced topics. I think we can learn a lot from this guy. But don't tell him I told you.
Yeah, Travis is really bad at that. He'll twist your arm till it almost breaks.
Well, I am writing an inlay class, and as part of the inlay class, I was building a new vanity, so I kept a few of these pieces. These are all inlays done off the CNC. So it's done using the inlay technique, and there's 3 different techniques, and so I was experimenting with each one as I'm writing this class. So it's in the work.
Hey guys, I think I just heard from our future instructor a outline of what he would be covering in his first CNC class for the shop. Is that right?
Yes, it's in the works.
Great. So Ian, thank you so much for having shown us what you've got there. We're going to transition now to Lou.
Hey Travis.
Yes.
Can I just put my 2 cents in on one thing before you move on?
Please.
One thing that I think he covered that's extremely important, and I'll be very quick, is how to figure out feeds and speeds. Just like in wood turning, your tools are either sharp, your wood's hard, whatever. There's a lot of guidelines out there, but listen to your machine. If you listen to your machine and you look to make sure you're creating chips and not dust, he hit it right on the head. That is the absolute best way to know how fast to run your machine.
And I want you to know, as you said that, I permanently muted Jerry. Jerry, just having fun with you. Come on. So let's switch over now to Lou Adzima. I'm assuming, Lou, that you want to have your this view of you right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Take it away, Mr. Adzima.
I got to flip this phone again. I don't know how I did. Oh, wait a minute. There it is.
When you want to switch over to your phone, just let me know.
Okay. Go to the phone.
All right.
I think you got my desk and my laptop.
Yeah, I got to find that other one of you. There we are. Yeah. Right now we're looking at the floor. It's really a nice floor. There we go.
Okay. What I want to show, this is my next wave. It's a 2 foot by 4 foot machine. And when I bought this, the reason I bought this size machine was that I wanted to cut end panels on cabinets and things like that. And it's been a great machine. I have it for sale now, and the price keeps changing on what I'm going to sell with it. It's got a controller and a 2.5, I don't even know what size that is.
Hey Lou, is this the same thing that Ian just showed us as the one?
Yeah, basically it's just what I started with. I have the touchpad for the setting the Z axis. And I used this little controller here. It was like 10 bucks on the web to actually get it, set the exact center that I want to cut on. So like I said, it's on sale. It can come with just the machine. It can come with VCarve Pro, or it can come with the cabinet VCarve Pro and the whole machine. So if anybody's interested.
Does it come with the ear covers?
Actually these, yeah, I'll give you these because they hurt my ears.
Okay.
They look like they're off a flight deck somewhere and they're really small. But this machine, I did cut this ballerina, and I gave these away last year for the shop sale. There's this, and then there was the dinosaur for the boys. And these are actually cut out of a four foot piece of MDF. So that's the capacity of the machine. It will cut something 4 foot long.
Great.
That's about it. It was a great machine, but I wanted to go to the next step and find something different because I kind of just outgrew it. There was no new challenges to it. So this is the new one.
So your next step was something red. Is that the idea?
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, well, my wife has a red car, so I thought I'd have to have a red machine.
Tell us about it.
This is the Maverick, made by Legacy in Utah. So it's all US made, everything. And I have at the end, I've got a spreadsheet there that's got some information on it. You can actually go to their website and see when we traveled there, and they gave us training on it. It's a 3 horsepower water-cooled spindle. The tub's over here, like it's been discussed. It's just got a pump on it that has antifreeze in it and 5 gallons of water, distilled water. This is a Grizzly 1.5 horsepower, I believe. It's the largest 120 that you can get. But I bought this in addition because I have another one in the wood shop for the saws and everything.
Lou, can I ask you to pause just for a second? Guys, everything we've seen so far is not even his wood shop, okay? We haven't even seen the wood shop, so I get blown away by how much space he has. Sorry, Lou, I just had to interject that.
I'll explain that later. But this machine, it does run off of Mach 5 or Mach 3, I think. And they are developing a new controller for their machines. It's developed by Delta, who made the power saws. And it's a self-contained unit that is actually attached to the machines now. I don't know what else can you say. It has a touchpad here for setting the depth on the blades, on the router. Jeez, on the router. It has a bit.
How about your A-axis, your lathe on the side?
Oh, the lathe is, well, it'll turn 10 inches in diameter, 5 foot long. And that's the 4th axis. And the 5th axis is the other end will raise up so that you can cut tapered things on it. What I was going to describe is this bed. This bed here is 2 foot by 4 foot. And it's expandable. You can actually cover the lathe up and make it 3 foot by 5 foot. Or 4 foot. Actually, you can go to 5 foot, but there's cutting area down there at the base that you can't really use. But, and it also has this end table that was developed for the shop machines. And it's tiltable so that you can set it for angles and cut dovetails and other kind of joints on the end grain of the material sticking straight up. The one thing that they do sell with the machine. Travis keeps exaggerating the price of this machine, but it was either this machine or a Corvette. So I couldn't get the plywood in the Corvette, so I decided to use this. Like I say, it was just new technology. After looking at a lot of machines, I did go to the woodworking show in Las Vegas last year in June and saw the machine. This is the 3x5. They make a Maverick that's 4x8, and they've actually just come out with a new Maverick that's 4x8 and has the automatic tool changers on it. It will change 6 bits on the machine, and if you go to the 7th bit, it will come to you and ask you to put that bit in by yourself, and you can do that up to 100 times. It'll take 100 bit changes. The dust collector's built into it. So if you go to their website, you can see it all. This is something I cut on here. I was working on this roll around stand for that, and I cut that hole in that piece of plywood for that drum, not drum, but the can.
5-gallon pail? Yeah.
Yeah, 5-gallon pail. And some of the other things that I've done is learning this machine is really different from the Next Wave, because you load the G code into this machine, and you hit cycle start here, which is kind of, it just tripped me up, because I was used to setting the bit or changing the bit, set the bit, do the Z-axis on it and everything, where when this thing starts cycle start, it comes up to the front here and asks you to change the bit. So you can say yes or just click yes, and it will come over here and hit the touchpad and set itself, and then go off and start cutting. Well, it stops, it does stop it. It will stop and ask for the dust shoe. But so it was just kind of adjusting to that. And on this turning software, they have their own turning software. It's called Conversational Cam. And one of the owners has developed this. And I cut this. First of all, I turned it around. Then I cut this to the depth of the bit. And that's the bit there. And I was going to just do it again. And before I could get it stopped, it came down and touched itself off. But it's ready to go. If I get a chance, I'll run it. So these are some of the things that I started to turn. One of the things that I wanted to make was a walking stick for my daughter. Oh, Travis, would you show that the blue image?
Sure.
My daughter's a walker, and she does the 5-peak challenge.
This one?
No, that's the table. Actually, let me speak to that. This is the table that I made for my great-grandchildren a year ago Christmas, and you can see their names are carved in the top of it. I had to cut this in 2 separate pieces, cut their names in separately, and then glue it back together and paint it. But the other one, the 5-peak challenge.
Okay. Oh, no, you didn't send me the 5-peak challenge. You just sent me the Boy Scout plaque.
Oh, well, yeah, that's not important, isn't it? I thought it, okay, never mind.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I did, I took it to class, to the meeting at the shop. It was a blue disc.
Oh, yes. No, I definitely remember, yeah.
It was about 14 inches in diameter, and it just said the 5-peak challenge, and it had some shoe marks on it and stuff like that. But so anyway, she's a walker, and she wants a walking stick. This is something that I've cut, and I lost picture. Travis?
You're back.
Oh, okay. You can see it. This is up to about my waist here. But what I was trying to do was cut this taper and end up with a 3/4 inch foot on the bottom like this, so that I could put one of these crutch tips on it. But I'm having trouble figuring out the software and things. In fact, here's one that I probably shouldn't even show you. Yeah, but it's fun trying to learn it. And the surprising thing is, you know, you never know what's inside. This is the material that these were cut out of. It was some rough stuff. They've designed this so that you can cut a 2x4 in half and have stock to cut. You know, all these are basically 1.5 inch square from a 2x4. This is just a perfectly round. This is a different diameter. This is 1.25 inches. Here's another small taper. These are actually the turnings that we did when we went to Utah and did the class. So
that was a 2-day class, right? After you took possession?
Well, even before you took possession, if you were buying the machine, they gave you the class. But this one, I cut this one at home here. And you can see it's got some flat spots on it because the wood wasn't true, you know. This is what I have in the machine right now that I cut. And this will even do, I forgot what they call fluting.
That's crazy.
And I think, Howard, did you not have a legacy machine that kind of did this?
My wife just moved it out of her garage into mine, and I got it for, wait a minute. Hold on. Oh, you can hear me. Yeah, yes. My wife just moved it out of her garage into mine. It's in my way. I can do the rounded fluted columns, all that. And it's up for sale, and I'm almost giving it away. Literally, I'm giving it away.
Well, let people know how big it is, Howard.
It's it'll cut, I think, 6 or 7 foot, about 8 inches round. Yeah, hold on a second.
I mean, it took up a lot of your wife's garage, if I remember right.
Yeah, hold on.
And it was one of the machines that Legacy built its reputation on. Basically, they just kept modifying and moving these machines until they came up with a full CNC machine that would do it all.
But if I remember right, Howard's wasn't an NC controlled machine, was it? No, it ain't a computer controlled machine. You're setting everything manually, and you turn a screw which is indexed, so you can actually make a hollow 3 wood post.
Turning, yeah.
You can do more on that machine than you can actually do on the CNC, the way it's set up. Wow. But it's all manual. But when I say manual, you're turning a knob that's turning a gear, and it's it makes everything move in the right direction and so on. Unbelievable. And it's fast. I mean, you can turn these things literally in 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and you're turning legs, you're doing tapers, and the whole 9 yards. So people should just reach out to you if they're interested, right? Oh, reach out to me, and I'll make you a deal that'll just you won't believe. Cool.
I never saw the machine because, like you said, it was put away in your wife's garage. But I saw the results of it, and it was really fascinating. He did a lot of split turnings, that where you just use half of the turning on the bars and things that he made, and it was really great. Yep. This is a practice. This was one of the things that really intrigued me about this machine, was to be cutting threads. This is a 1-inch spindle, and it's 4 threads per inch, and it's just the first attempt that I made after I got the machine. I haven't gotten back to it yet, but have you cut the nut for it? I have. Well, I haven't cut the nut for it. I have this was cut with a 90-degree bit, and there is a there is a router bit. This is the bit that will actually cut.
Oh my gosh.
The internal threads for a nut.
I was kidding. Wow.
No, that's that they have. If you go to their website at Legacy, they have a piano stool that has like a 3-inch threaded. I don't know what the seat is. You know, you spin the seat like a piano stool.
Oh yeah, right. To rise it and lower it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's cut on this machine. By the way, showing this magnet name here on these router bits, the magnet are the people that Legacy uses, because they'll cut custom bits for them. And part of the price on this machine was buying their starter set of bits, which there's even more in here now than what I got originally. And it was like $270. So there was part of that in the machine. Here's a lifting device that you can actually lift the machine off of these casters and move it. Because when it came in, it was 1,250 pound box that it came in, and you had to have a forklift on site to unload it. So that was an experience by itself. But going back to the magnet, what they're offering is, I talked to the guy the other day, and he said that if you called and talked to him online, not online, but over the phone, you can get a 5% discount on all their bits. And they're all carbide, and they are cheaper, although I do favor, somebody mentioned tools today. So I kind of like their bits too. They're what do they call them? Spectra or something, that they're coated. So they worked really well, but this magnet is a pretty good deal. In fact, he gave me a stack of CDs that I said, who has players for these?
Right.
But they have the whole catalog online. So if anybody wants to go check it out, I'm going to photograph this. And if you want to look at it later on the video.
Hey, Lou, before we turn to Q&A, can you just do the thumb line? You say I exaggerate the price of what you paid. If you're willing to share just general numbers, people can at least see the ballpark of what you have to spend to get something like this.
Oh, okay. Well, the machine itself was $17,000. That's what I was looking at when I went in. And of course, the router bits, the lifting tool was $700. But you can see this machine is not fooling around. It's got, you know,
rack and pinion. Yeah,
rack and pinion, and it's all welded steel. And in fact, on my website, you can see the factory tour that we did whenever we went there and got the training.
Yeah.
The other things, like I said, the router bits that I got as their starter kit was $270, I believe. It did come with the computer. It came with the conversational cam for making turnings, and it came with Aspire software. So that's $2,000 by itself.
Yeah.
So it's quite a package of stuff that was put together. I can't even.
In the end, you paid $17K?
I think I paid $21,000 to get it here.
Okay.
With all that stuff, I'm you put me on the spot. I can't even remember.
No, don't worry.
But anyways, you know, other things. I bought this Husky toolbox, you know, and just other accessories. This is one sign that I bid on a Navy job with. It's for the city of Bismarck ship. I don't believe I got the contract because the you know, because of the virus thing, it kind of put a squelch on everything. This was a heart that I did for a girl that called me. I cut 2 of these, and I gave one to the shop last year for the holiday sale. This one I was making for my daughter. This is Purple Heart, and this was cut on the new machine.
Lovely.
But it's a funny thing, the heart was cut on the Next Wave machine over 1.5 years ago. Honestly, I've just had these in the shop. So that was for her birthday. We were going to the theater, and that got canceled and put on hold. And this is one of the other. I didn't mention it, but my tenant at my house is a contractor, so he's given me some work on cutting, you know, making special cabinets that he needs for overhauling, not motels, but some kind of living spaces, you know, like in a hotel, not a hotel, but what am I thinking of?
Apartments?
Apartments, yeah, there you go, because he rehabs like hundreds of apartments at a time. So he'll come up with stuff, you know, that's 24 inches wide or under 24 inches to cut. So that's what I like about it. This is one of the projects, though, that I really had in mind for a long time. I have a Delta 10-inch cabinet saw that I've had since probably 92 or 93. And I've made a number of these with putting them on a router and running them around. But I finally came up about 2 weeks ago with a pattern to cut these. And I'll have a video up probably in the next couple of days on my website about that.
Hey, Lou, do you have a couple minutes for some questions?
Sure.
How about you folks out there with questions?
Is that a 220 volt machine?
Well, yeah, but it's single phase.
Okay.
You know, it's just household 20 amp circuit.
Okay.
Other questions?
Yeah, Lou, about how long does it take to do one of those staffs with the 4th axis, you know, that sort of have the, you know, the spiral going up it?
Oh, these twisted ones?
Yes, those.
About 4 minutes.
Wow.
You know, I mean, and that's not, and what the when we're there at the instructing place, I mean, they're cut a lot faster because they're running through this software that they have, conversational cam. It's like 300 inches per minute is the feed on it, but they run theirs at 700. So, I mean, it really zips through it when you see the demos, you know.
That's amazing.
I just haven't got that brave yet because I don't know where the frickin' machine's going when I press start, you know.
It's scary, scary. Other questions? Okay. Someday, Lou, we're going to have to get you to show us just the other side of the wall where you have the whole wood shop as well. Maybe we can do a shop tour someday.
Yeah. Like I said before, it's a long way off because I got to get a lot of this stuff cleaned up. I mean, there's just such a mess around here. But let me give you the capsulated version.
Sure.
This garage is 63 feet long. It can hold, and Deanna's husband died. They were married 40 years, and he died in 2000, and then we met each other and got together. And I kind of took over the garage. This is her stained glass work. That cabinet at the end, I built for her even before we got together at my house. But it's just kind of evolved. And so the garage was built because Lyle, her husband, built little dwarf cars that he raced at Verona. And he also did any kind of motor work. When we had this garage cleaned out, the guys who took all the metal said that they've done machine shops that they've never taken this much metal out of. So she has a parking garage next to this that I have full of plywood stacked all around her car. And this is the double garage here, the double door. And then there's this space here that is like at least another car wide. And I put this wall up when I first came here, and I was trying to contain all my sawdust equipment on that side of the wall because I also have a photo set up. There's paper rolls that you can see to do photography. And we kept this area clean. This desk was supposed to be clean for finishing photography and things like that. But you see, I took it over. Her father worked on the King Ranch. I don't know if you know what that's one of the largest ranches in Texas. And he was a carpenter for them, and he came out here to San Diego, and he actually built the sports arena. It was a concrete tilt-up building. So he did all the work on that and supervised that. And then he also built this garage for Lau. So that was, it was perfect.
Cool space.
Yeah.
Just so people know, this is where we are when we see Lou, is we're in Hamul. So that's where he has to come in from whenever he comes to the shop or whatever. Any other questions for Lou before we sort of wind down here? Lou, that is
I know I heard Howard talking about putting stuff together, you know, building your own so that you know how to operate it. I was a camera repairman for the Navy, and I put equipment together that people broke for over 40 years. And when I got into this business of CNC work, I didn't want to put anything else together.
Right.
So if it didn't come turnkey, I wasn't interested in it.
Well,
but
Lou, and
your guys' hearts for doing all the technical parts of it.
Lou, you've already learned so many skills, from your welding to your photography to your woodworking. I mean, I've toured your place, and there's nothing that you and Deanna haven't touched in terms of craft and art and that sort of thing. So I'm not sure you necessarily need to build anything. We'll go ahead and wind this down now. Let me just, as a parting thought, thank you very much, Lou, for taking the time and showing us this. Reminder to folks that he's selling his CNC if anybody's interested. Just so you guys know what's coming up in terms of the upcoming events, we have just a few things on the calendar. We're working to add a whole bunch more, but we are going to be having on Monday a Fusion 360 SIG meeting. We're back to the beginners phase. So Tim is going to be focusing on beginner topics. After that, we'll have Doug and his fundamentals class, the Fast Start Fundamentals. He's going to be beginning a 6-part series that is to build a hanging wall cabinet. And over the course of that series of building the cabinet, he'll be introducing all sorts of woodworking fundamentals and growing the woodworking skills of a community of people who want to participate. On Friday mornings, Dan hosts the holiday gift build, where we still continue, even without a shop, in planning projects, people doing them at home, and that's where we do a show and tell and some planning. And I don't remember what the topic is that Paul will be doing on next Saturday morning's SIG, but it's a hand tool topic, and it'll be out on the website soon. Lastly, we have Alan, who's going to be giving his Lightburn 201 class, and that we don't have published yet, but it's probably going to be the next 2, I think it was Sunday evenings, and that should be a lot of fun too. It's going to push us into places that we haven't been before with Lightburn. Before we wind down, any other questions before we end this? I'm going to go to this view right here, so we can see whether or not Doug still has 2 faces, and he does. But how about by way of just as Jerry did, thumbs up? Was this kind of a session valuable, and would you like to see more of this kind of thing? Okay, we're 3, 4, good, 5, good, excellent. Okay, good. So this was well received, and we're back to the analog Lou putting his thumb up in the air, not knowing that there's a button. Guys, thank you very much for joining us. Keep an eye out on the website for upcoming events, and we'll see you around the corner, okay? Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Right.